Good morning, everybody. It's Chelsea Whittington, and I am so excited. And I'm also going to change my camera just a little bit to make sure that everybody can see this face right there. Yes, there she is. As promised, a conversation with former Gary Mayor Karen Freeman-Wilson, President and CEO of the Chicago Urban League. Good morning.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule just to have this conversation with me about map redistricting.
Well, you know, whenever you call, I try to come running, and this is something that is so important to all of us.
Yes, it
and
is.
So near and dear to my heart.
Yes, and I know that in your role as mayor, and even as in your role currently as president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, we know that the redistricting and the redrawing of maps every 10 years after the census has an impact on the communities that we live in. And so I have been working with Bill Morrow from the Indiana Citizen.
Yes.
And his foundation.
Longtime friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he actually reached out to me a few weeks ago talking about how he wanted to reach out to the citizens in Northwest Indiana to find out and educate us on what redistricting means to us, because to be quite honest, a lot of us just don't know how it impacts us. Remember when we were doing that push to get us to fill out the census?
Yes.
That's step one.
That's the first step of it, really getting people to understand why the census is important. And, you know, in talking to people about the census, we talk about how it determines our entitlements, meaning our Social Security. It determines how much we get for roads and streets from the federal government.
Yes.
And so, you know, we all, as communities across the country, have a certain allocation or a certain percentage of tax dollars that are reallocated to us.
Okay.
It is largely based on population. So if we find that we have more population, we get more money.
Okay.
If we have less population, we get less money. And so that's why the census is important. It's also important at the most basic level because, as an example, there is a board in this area. It's called NIRPC, the Northwest Indiana or Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission.
Okay.
And that board, again, determines the allocation of federal dollars for busing or public transportation. It determines the allocation of dollars from roads, bridges, all throughout Lake, Porter, and LaPorte County.
I don't think I fully understood that.
And because of how NIRPC makes those determinations, there's also a part of NIRPC that deals with economic development in the region. And the largest city in each county has a plum seat. Well, Gary used to be that largest city.
I was going to say, is it still us? I didn't think.
It is no longer us.
It is not us.
And
okay.
so the city of Hammond now gets that determination.
And was that the result of the last census?
That was the result of the 2010 census.
I told y'all to.
And it was like by 400 people.
Oh my goodness.
It was by 400 people.
So 400 people, kind of literally, did it cost us millions over?
It cost us the decision-making ability over millions.
Oh, wow.
So that's something that we have to continue to remember, that, you know, in terms of how we're ranked in the state, how people perceive us in terms of numbers, that matters.
Okay. So now let's get to the maps portion of that. So that was the census.
So that's the census. So now we're in the process, after having the numbers from the census, of drawing the maps. Well, the city council draws a map.
Okay.
Normally the county council would draw a map, but guess what?
What?
Lake County.
Good old Lake County.
Only county where the state
out of all 92
legislature draws your map.
Why is that, man?
Well, because the state legislature made that determination. That's a good question, but it's the truth. And so now we are waiting for the state legislature to draw the congressional maps to determine our congressional districts, and we have 9, and to determine the House and Senate districts.
So what power do we have in that? I mean,
we have the power. Well, we do have some power. We have the power to testify in front of their boards. They had public testimony back in August, and I actually went down to Indianapolis and testified before the House. I believe it was the Elections Committee, about the maps and the importance of what to consider when they draw the maps. Now, at this time, we didn't have any maps.
Okay.
We didn't know what they were going to do. Now we have those maps to react to. And they've done a couple of things that I think people should pay close attention to throughout the state of Indiana.
Okay.
They have, so here's the thing. Our power is limited because you have a supermajority in the House of Representatives and you have a supermajority in the Senate.
Okay.
What does that mean? That means that Republicans have a large, not just the majority, they have a majority to make decisions about whatever they want to make decisions
Supermajority.
about. A supermajority. For instance, if you look at the U.S. Congress, the Democrats have a majority, and it's only by about 20 or 30 members. In the House in Indiana, that majority is by maybe 30 or 40 members. You have 100 people,
right,
and a lot of them are Republicans.
Okay.
The same is true in the Senate.
Okay.
I think it's you only have 50 senators, so you have maybe 15 Democratic senators, rest Republican. Maybe my numbers are off a little bit. And so it's not just about partisan politics, but when you have those super majorities, it means that I'm less likely to listen to people whose opinion differ from mine, whose opinions are in the minority. I don't have to. I don't need your vote. I don't need your support. I can just essentially vote the way I want to vote without fear of retribution. So as a consequence, I can push back on mandates, even though the incidence of COVID and death from COVID has had a disproportionate effect on blacks and Latinos. But if I am a white male who's in the supermajority, I don't care about you dying. I'm not going to do a mask mandate. I'm not going to do anything to provide extra protection. Again, Black and Latinx businesses have been disproportionately affected or impacted by COVID. But I'm not going to stand up a special program for you because, again, I'm in the supermajority.
What does it benefit me?
It doesn't benefit me.
So with the state drawing our maps,
at the county level.
At the county level,
Yep.
and how do we fight against that? Or is there a way that we can say going forward we want it to change where we
I think the only way for that to change is ultimately through litigation. I mean, you could certainly appeal to people's sense of fairness, but
Good luck on that.
Good luck on that. Good luck on that. And the reality is that they will always try to draw the county up. And, we know that we have an urban core to Lake County. We have a rural part or a more suburban part of Lake County. They will always try to draw it so that you at least have one Republican member of the county commission and that you have as many Republican members of the county council as possible. So, I mean, we're in a hyper partisan era in our country. This county is no different. We're very partisan. And as you look at the way that they're drawing the maps, even in the House of Representatives, when they announced it, they drew a map that created a conflict between Senator Mervan, who has been serving in the state Senate for a very long time, and Senator Randolph.
Yes, that just came out, right?
Yeah, that just came out earlier this week. And so they are going to draw it in a way that they, being the Republican legislature, how much is enough? Doesn't seem like enough, isn't it? I mean, it's like, well, let's see if we can get one more person. Or let's see if we can get one more person in our.
So we have to be more vocal and a part of the process.
We have to be a part of the process. When I was down there for the testimony, and I know that a lot of people went to Valpo,
okay,
but when I was down with the in the Indiana State House when they took the testimony, there weren't a lot of people from Northwest Indiana. And I know that sometimes it's a headache to have to drive, and it's it takes time out of your day, and you don't always get the time off from work. But we have to ensure, there are other ways. You can submit written testimony right now. And there was a release today. You can submit written testimony. You can submit your own map in terms of what you think it should look like. One of the concerns I thought that there was going to be an effort to draw the map in a way that it would erode the power of the first congressional district and make it more difficult for us to elect a Democrat. They've conceded that point, right?
Okay.
And they've given us that. But they are making it more harder for a Democrat to win in the area, say around Lafayette, and in the area, say around South Bend. And there have been Democrats elected in the South Bend community, and a Democrat narrowly lost in the area that's just north of Indianapolis, just east or just west of Indianapolis. So it's possible. But again, voter turnout. And if you think about it, so in Indiana, there were about 24 years where you had statewide elected office holders who were Democrats. Maybe 20 years. You had Evan Bayh. You had Frank O'Bannon. You had Joe Kernan. We've elected Joe Donnelly statewide. And so what that means really is that there are just as many people who are Democratic leaning as Republican. Okay. The issue is turnout, and it's how things are drawn. And so now we are getting just swamped.
Yeah. And it's almost, would you say it's too late, Mayor? I know we're having, like Senator Melton is having a session this evening, informational about the maps, but with yesterday's headline and in the Post, where are we now? What can be done now?
It's going to be very difficult to change the maps through the legislative process. You can litigate the maps, but the Voting Rights Act is so watered down now, it's even hard to do that. And there's a coalition of folks involving the NAACP and the League of Women Voters and just a number of legislators that are working hard to address this. The Urban League is involved. I'm also involved with the Deltas. We have a national redistricting commission where we are looking at these things. But, if you talk to professors, if you talk to scholars of redistricting, Indiana is one of the worst gerrymandered state in the country. And when I say gerrymandered, you asked about that question. It means that, typically, if you're going to do this, you would simply just go through the state, cut it up by population, and draw squares. Draw lines without regard. And you can't draw perfect squares because Indiana trails off at the bottom. But you would just count off the people and make the district. Count out the people and make the district. What's happening is they are not just counting out the people, they're looking at the people and how they vote. who they vote for. Are
And
they
that is
Republicans?
not fair.
It is the very definition of gerrymandering. We are trying to create something that lends itself to partisan politics as opposed to lending itself to fairness in the electoral process. You know, they talk about things like communities of interest should be able to band together as a result of how lines are drawn. Communities, and you know, it's not just racial lines about communities of interest. You know, there's a community of interest along the lake shore, as an example. We all care about Lake Michigan.
Yes.
So there ought to be a community of interest around there. There are community of interest around rural issues or urban issues or suburban issues. Those are all communities of interest. And so, you know, to have this issue come up over and over again. And so one of the solutions that I've talked about, and I've talked about this in Chicago, I've talked about it here in Indiana, is to really think about the census starting now. We should be preparing for the 2030 census right now.
Okay.
We should not wait.
Yeah.
We should not, you know, say that, oh, well, that's going to happen in 10 years, so we're going to wait until 2028.
Right.
We
Because
need to start getting it.
what I found when we were doing the census campaigning, that people were so skeptical,
People were
and you know, we
hesitant.
didn't have time to really convince them to say this is going to benefit us. And now look at us now.
Well, you know, I think our number's about 69,000. That's a woeful undercount. That's a tremendous undercount. I know that we've not gone from 80,000 people to 69,000.
No.
I think that, you know, you see people every day that are moving here from Illinois. And so, you know, one of the options we also have is to really look at how we might deal with the interim, because there's an interim count in between that 10-year period. So when people get those things from the government in the mail and it looks like a big book and most of us just throw them away
or put them in the fireplace,
we gotta answer those questions.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There's an interim.
So for those who are watching, and they're watching, what would you say to them, like, what, other than the census piece of it with the redistricting of the maps, how would they do the write-ins and submit their own maps?
There was a press release that came out of the State House of Representatives today.
Okay.
Look for that. You can go online to indiana.gov, to the Indiana General Assembly, the House of Representatives.
Okay.
And they will give you the timeline in the House. I think that, and they will also give you a link to submit testimony, written testimony, and a map.
Okay.
They will also give you the ability to click on and actually look at the districts, the redistricting from a historical basis. They show you 2021 as it's proposed. They show you what 2011 looked like, what 2001 looked like, so that you can know. And if you think about it this way, there were elections that were more favorable in 2011 and 2001, after the 2001, after the 2011 drawing. So if you look at how those maps were drawn, there may be a suggestion that maybe we'll go back to those maps, or maybe we'll look at a map that looks a lot more like the 2001, the 2011 map.
And so how much time do we have, Mayor?
We have until, I think the final vote will happen in early October.
Okay.
The Senate hasn't published their calendar fully, but Senator Melton will probably provide that information in his session this evening.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching, Senator Melton is hosting a community forum about map redistricting, which I think will also be broadcast via social media. I'll be sure to share that for those who can't come out.
Yep.
But I'm just so glad you've taken the time to talk to me, because information is power.
Yes, it
and
is.
I'm seeing some of the comments come in because I had no idea. And I know if I consider myself to be in the know and I'm still a little foggy, then there's some others that say, well, what can we do? And then for the next time, when the interim count comes, all these things I'm going to be aware of. I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be asking you, like, what do we need to do? Because we wait till it's over, then we complain and we say, well, why aren't our roads? Why aren't we getting the dollars? Why are the schools doing this? You know what we hear every day.
And things like SNAP benefits, all of those things like health benefits, all of that is determined by the redistricting process because it's determined by Congress. And right now, Indiana has 9 representatives, 2 Democrats, 7 Republicans. We could easily have 4 Democrats with the right lines, and really should have.
Which would even it out more because 4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Versus 7 to 2.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'll definitely be watching. I want to thank you.
I should tell you too, on September 30th at 7 p.m. Central Time, the Deltas are going to do a town hall. And it's going to be broadcast live on social media, so look for that.
Okay, is this only social media, or will you all be in person as well?
No, it's going to be on. It's going to be a virtual town hall, but it's going to be all about redistricting.
Okay, please send me that information. You know that I will push it out. I want to thank everybody who's watching. I want to thank the Indiana Citizen. I encourage you to go to indianacitizen.org. It lays out its general information, it's educational. I want to keep emphasizing, this is not a political conversation. This is us looking at our own stake in the game.
It's really how government works or does not work.
Or does not. Exactly.
That really is what it is.
So ask yourselves, are we doing all that we can to make government work for us? Everybody have an enjoyable day. Mark your calendars again this evening at 6 p.m. Central. They will be at the Diamond Center, adjacent to the Railcast Stadium, but it will be broadcast live. So go to State Senator Eddie Melton's page to watch that. And then the Deltas?
The Deltas online virtually will be on Facebook Live September 30th at 7 p.m. Central Time. So we'll be pushing that information out over the next few days.
All right, and I'll be pushing this video out through all of my various channels, and I ask that all of you do the same. Everybody have a great day. You have a great day too.
All right, you too now, Chelsea. Thank you.